In this program, we're going to show you how to survive outdoors, away from home. Living in the city isn't easy, but most of what we'll learn today is common sense. The important thing for you to learn in any emergency is stay calm, keep cool, and think. It's not likely that you'll run into any of the exact situations we'll show you, but you'll be ahead of the game if you simply learn to recognize dangerous situations and react calmly and deliberately to handle them yourself or get the proper adult help. It's important that you are the expert when it comes to your neighborhood. Now let's see how much you know. Draw a map of the entire area around your home where you're allowed to go by yourself. Mark your home with a big circle. See how many streets you can label. If you're not sure, ask your parents. Mark all the places you're allowed to go: school, church, friends' homes, stores, playgrounds, and libraries. Make it very neat. This is your combat map, and your senior officers may need it to find you someday. Use a dotted line to draw the route you take from home to the places you go most often. With your parents, mark the areas that are dangerous or where you're not allowed to go by yourself. If you have neighborhood block mothers in your area, mark the location of those homes. You can recognize them by the signs in the window that say, block parent. You can always knock on their door if you need help. Well, that's my neighborhood. Picasso couldn't have done it better. Now you give it a shot. Fill out the pages labeled Neighborhood Survival Map in your guide. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Looks like we better check this out. That's Jill's emergency phone card. It lists all the important numbers she may need. She always carries it with her. Jill should have a quarter for the phone. Your telephone company may only want 15 or 20 cents, but take a quarter. In an emergency, one coin is much easier to handle than 2 or 3. It's a great idea to be familiar with how to use payphones before you need one for an emergency. If you need help and don't have a quarter or forgot your phone list, you can get help by dialing the operator. Or if you live in an area that uses 911, you can dial that number to report an emergency. Never be embarrassed to ask for help. First, tell the operator what kind of emergency you have, then the location you're calling from, and your name. Stay on the line, if you can, to answer questions and get instructions. In many emergencies, the first person who will be sent to help you will be from the police. Whenever you have a problem, a police officer is your best friend. Don't be afraid to talk to an officer if you have a problem. This guy can take care of almost anything.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks.
You know, sometimes my job is to protect you from an attack of show-offitis. If I have to stop you from doing something wrong, remember, I'm only doing my job. One important thing you can do to help us is always pay attention to what is happening around you. Practice memorizing descriptions. For instance, what just happened behind me? How would you describe the suspects? It sounds easier than it is. Turn off the tape and try writing down exactly what happened. How many suspects were there? Can you describe them? What were they wearing? How old were they? Was there anything different about them? If you want to see how you did, just rewind the tape and watch again.
You know the rules. We hear them all the time. These are just a few that I had to deal with. Sometimes it's hard to understand why they should be followed. They are important. And they make sense because they are for your protection. But you'll need to make some of your own rules which apply to your neighborhood. You should practice the buddy system whenever you leave the house. Besides, it's more fun than being alone. If you can be buddies with a brother or sister, great. You might even think of a secret code to warn your buddy of danger. Like, we have to get going, or Mom is calling. But once in a while, someone like Jill leaves her common sense at home. Oh, sure, I know. You get on each other's nerves sometimes. But you can be great protection for each other. On the way to school, you can check out safe places to go in an emergency. And if there is an emergency, there are two of you trained to stay calm, keep cool, and think. I said keep cool. Practice your powers of observation and all the common sense rules. Don't ever give a stranger any information about yourself, your family, or where you live. And don't ever get in an automobile with a stranger. Uh-oh. Better get a closer look at this.
Hi there. I'm looking for someone who'll take care of this puppy. I can't keep her. I'll give her to anyone who promises to take care of her and love her.
Oh, she's so cute.
I'm sorry, we're not allowed to accept gifts from people we don't know.
That's using the old noodle, Jack. If you see a suspicious car, memorize everything about it. Color, license number, dents. I hope Jack and Jill were paying attention. Now they will have to be the eyes for the police. Let's see how good a detective you are. Turn the tape off and write down everything you remember about the car, the driver, and what happened. When you're all through, come back and check it against what Jack and Jill remember.
Tell him it was a black convertible top down, and the first three letters in the license number were J-E-L.
This is an emergency. My sister and I just saw a girl pulled into a car on Linden near Lake Street. He had sort of a bald head and a beard. He was my dad's age. Oh, my dad's 39, almost 40. He had a brown puppy with him.
A Cocker Spaniel.
A Cocker Spaniel. The girl was blonde, about 8 years old.
Like I said, the rules are for your protection. You probably already know the safety tips and rules for bike riding. But for Jack's sake, let's review them. The first rule is to have a bike that fits. Having a bike that's too big for you is like a pilot flying a big plane he's not qualified to fly. It doesn't work right. It's tiring and dangerous. You can't control the bike very well, and it makes it easier to lose your balance and fall. On the other hand, if the bike is too small, it's hard to steer. Now, this bike is just right. Sounds like something out of the Three Bears. Your seat should be adjusted so that you can sit comfortably on the seat with your hands on the handlebars and both feet on the ground. Make sure your bike is always in good shape. Keep all the screws and bolts tight and the movable parts, like the sprocket and the chain, well oiled. Okay, Jack, you check out. Take off.
We all know that riding a bike is fun, but it's also your transportation. Always ride in the right-hand side of the road with the flow of traffic and be predictable. No sudden swerves. Watch out for cars. Even parked cars can sneak up on you. Just like there are kids who ride their bikes recklessly, there are a lot of people who don't drive safely. Don't ever forget that the cars you share the road with are bigger and faster than you. So don't pick an argument with them. They might not be as well trained as you are. Always obey signals and lights, and let the people around you know your intentions. Left turn, right turn, stopping or slowing down. Always be on the lookout for slippery spots, loose gravel, holes in the road, or other dangerous things. But don't steer around them until you've checked the traffic behind you to be sure it's safe. Baggy clothes can easily get tangled in chains and become baggy rags, and bare feet can become mangled toes. One other thing, bicycles are considered vehicles by law and must obey all traffic rules that apply to cars. Check with your local police department to find out the regulations in your community. Tell them Gary sent you.
Not everyone has a great park close by to play in. And if your playground isn't Dodger Stadium, all you really need is a little space, some imagination, and a friend or two. But keep in mind, nothing can spoil a sunny day faster than a case of show-off-itis.
One time I was swinging, and this guy, Bobby, dared me to jump off the swing. So I did, and I hurt my ankle and couldn't pitch for the playoffs. The left fielder took my place.
The left fielder was Bobby.
We used to play football on the grass, but Tuesday the grass was being watered, so we played on the concrete. I went out for a long bomb, and I came down on my elbow. I broke my arm.
The other team intercepted the pass.
I think an important rule is not to fool around a drinking fountain. It is very dangerous, and it might cause a cut mouth.
Or a broken tooth. Now that reminds me of a really good rule. A dog can be a kid's best friend, but always know your friends. Animals like to protect their property, so stay away from their food, puppies, and toys. Say, Jack, I need you to show us how to handle a dog that looks like it might bite.
Sure, yeah. I'm gonna what?
Trust me. Let's imagine that Fido is approaching you, snarling and barking viciously. What would you do?
Break the world record for the 100-yard dash.
Do that, and you'd be puppy chow.
Well, what do I do?
Try to stay calm and talk to the dog while walking slowly out of his territory. Face the dog. Don't let him get behind you.
Are you sure? Nice doggy. Good rover. Pretty Fido.
Never run or ride a bicycle or skateboard past loose or barking dogs. It's the sudden movement that may cause the dog to chase or try to bite you. If it looks like the animal is going to bite no matter what you do, try holding out a sweater or a book. Hold out anything but a part of your body. Now, Jack, do you know what to do when he bites you? Okay, just kidding. If you are bitten, wash the bite with soap and water and get medical help immediately. As soon as possible, get the dog owner's name, address, and phone number, or the address of the house closest to where you were bitten. When you get home, call the Animal Control Authority in your city, tell them you were bitten, give a description of the animal and the owner's address.
Here, Fido.
Don't do that, Jack. Never feed a strange dog.
He's not strange, Gary. A little unusual, maybe, but he's all mine.
You know, there are so many temptations around that they even have their own name. Attractive nuisances. Reminds me of some girls I know. Things like trains, trucks, junkyards, old cars, abandoned buildings, and old refrigerators. Most states have laws requiring doors and locks be taken off old refrigerators, but you'll still see some lying around. Never play in a refrigerator. The door could slam shut. Whew. That could give the phrase cold storage a new meaning. Now for some fun and games. The safety game, to be exact. Everyone wins.
The best time to play is during a family meeting. But you can play anytime, any place. All you need is your imagination.
One person describes a situation someone might face if they're on their own. Include little details to make it seem real, and they could be indoor or outdoor emergencies.
The next person's gonna tell how they would handle the problem. It's best to actually act it out with an adult around, so they can help you, in case you get stuck.
Well, let me go first. I'm a natural.
Okay, Mr. Natural, try this. Someone's at your front door and he says his name is Dr. Jones and he needs to make an emergency phone call to the hospital. I don't see a medical bag, but he looks kind of important.
That's so easy. I'd tell him to give me the number he needs to call, and I'd call it for him.
The man says no and won't leave.
Then I'd say, sir, why don't I call the police and they can come help you with your emergency?
Hey, Jack, that's pretty good. And you know, the best thing about this game is the more you play, the easier it will be to...
Yeah, we know. Stay calm.
Keep cool and think.
We explorers love to open new territory. Okay, so this is a park. But it could be the forest, or a mountain, or a jungle, or a park in the middle of the city. When opening new territory, I always recommend the buddy system. Jack is having a little trouble keeping up. Maybe because he's got enough food in his backpack to feed an army. Oh, hi, Frank. You're just right on time.
Thanks, Gary. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Jack, Jill, say hello to my old buddy Frank. Used to be quite an outdoorsman himself.
Hi.
He was a captain in Vietnam. Boy, I bet there were a lot of creepy, crawly things over there like snakes and spiders.
Oh, yeah, lots of them. There are poisonous snakes all around you. They're in almost every state of the Union, as well as poisonous spiders. Most people are afraid of snakes and spiders because they don't know about them.
I don't want to know about him. I just want to stay away from him.
I can understand that. Now, let's pretend that you've been bitten by a poisonous snake or spider. What is the first and most important rule?
Run like crazy.
Wrong. Stay calm and keep cool.
If a snake bites you, impossible.
Well, if you panic and get excited, your heart beats faster, and it spreads the poison through your system quicker.
That's what I said. Stay calm and keep cool.
And send for medical help immediately. If you live in or visit an area of the country that has lots of poisonous creatures, you should carry a snake bite kit in your first aid kit. And you should learn how to use it.
Frank, please don't wish me pleasant dreams tonight. I hate spiders, even Daddy Longlegs.
Well, there is good news about spiders and snakes.
This I gotta hear.
Most snakes and spiders won't bother you if you don't bother them.
Great. Now, how can we be sure we're not bothering them? I mean, maybe they don't like my deodorant.
No, I mean bother them directly, like startle them or step on one. Well, the same rule applies to bees and hornets and all kinds of insects.
I've been stung by bees before. It hurt, but it didn't kill me.
Yes, you're right. Usually a sting just burns and stings, but some people might have an allergic reaction. If you or a friend is stung, then feels sick, has trouble breathing, or starts to swell, you get help right away.
Well, my mom just took the stinger out and washed the area with soap and water.
Well, that's good. Now, you remember that picture of the barefoot boy walking along a country road chewing on a weed?
Sure. Here he comes now.
Oh, hiya, guys.
You know, that weed he's chewing on could make him very sick. Well, some weeds can even kill you.
Well, I make it a rule to eat only plants that birds eat.
Well, birds can eat things that'll kill you, too. Jack, you should be very careful what you chew on. You see this? This is Jimson weed. It can kill you. So can this nightshade plant. Then stay away from the leaves of this. Oh, and everything on this one. Just be sure you know what you're putting in your mouth.
That's the same rule I use at my Aunt Maribel's house. But what about poison ivy?
Well, you'd never eat that one, but just touching the leaves can cause a reaction within hours. As soon as you realize you've contacted it, or poison oak, or poison sumac, remove contaminated clothing and wash all affected areas thoroughly with soap and cool water. And get adult help as soon as possible. Calamine lotion can help the itching.
Are we through with poisons now?
Yeah, but as long as we're here in the wilderness, we should talk about what you do if you get lost.
Finally, something simple. Stay calm, keep cool, and think.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Save your voice. Yell help 3 times and listen for an answer. If you're really smart, you'll carry a whistle and a flashlight when you go out in the wilderness. Always remember that 3 signals of any kind means SOS or help. The first rule is to stay put. If at all possible, stay in the open. Don't waste your breath shouting at an airplane or a helicopter. They can't hear you. You can use things like clothing, bark, or rocks to write out help. But you'll have to make it big. You could draw it out in snow or sand, but fill the center with something that's a different color. If you have any polished metal, aluminum cans, foil, mirror, try to flash the sun back at the aircraft. In fact, even if you have no target, flash periodically in all directions. Someone you can't see may see you.
Is that all? Oh, Jack, over here.
Well, actually, there's a lot more we can't cover here. One of the best tips is to take precautions against getting lost in the first place. Travel with at least one buddy. Stick to the trails. Get back before dark. And always tell someone where you're going, even in your own neighborhood.
Boy, getting lost is no fun. It's a good thing I've already seen this program.
Well, that's a good start, but we can't cover it all here. The best thing to do is contact your local Red Cross. They have all sorts of courses for emergencies, including life-saving and first aid.
Lie still. Don't move.
Nice timing, Jill. Let's imagine you took a bad fall down a rocky slope.
I'm okay. I just want to...
Don't move. We're about to talk about first aid emergencies.
Gary, I thought we covered all this in the other program.
That's right, we did. But things could be different out here. We might not have our first aid supplies, and we're miles from soap and water.
Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is stay calm and keep cool, as always.
Right, Jack. The first aid steps are the same as indoors.
But we don't have any clean cloths, blankets, or bandages. How do we stop the bleeding?
We could use your socks. If you put clean ones on this morning on clean feet.
By now, these are pretty grody. Besides, these socks are fuzzy. The fuzz might get in the wounds. Hey, how about using your sweatshirt?
Gary, does blood leave a permanent stain on cotton?
How would you like to have her for a survival buddy?
Okay, then once we get the bleeding under control, I go for help. But I should make sure Jill is warm, right?
Right.
Hey, Jill, can I use your sweater?
Yours is bigger.
You get the idea, Jack. The procedures are the same as the ones we use at home, but the supplies might be different.
There are lots of things that can happen outdoors that don't happen indoors.
Like drowning.
Right. In the summer, water does become a major problem in the pool and at the beach. You like to swim, Jack. Let's demonstrate on you this time. Now, lie down, Jack, and we'll pretend that you were just dragged onto the beach.
We really don't need Jack this time. We have a demo tape.
Oh. I'm sorry, Jack.
All kinds of things can interfere with the natural breathing process. Things like accidents, poisoning, smoke inhalation, infections, and drowning.
Call for help immediately. Then try to restore breathing.
In any medical emergency, every second counts. The first step in an emergency is to find out if you have a victim. Gently tap or shake the victim's shoulder. If there's no response, call for help. The sooner professional help arrives, the better the victim's chance for recovery. Then, with the victim on his back, open the air passages by gently tipping back the head with the fingers of one hand along the bony portion of his jaw and by placing one hand on his forehead. Avoid the soft tissues of the throat. With most of the pressure on the forehead, put your cheek and ear close to the victim's mouth and nose to look, listen, and feel for breathing. Again, look, listen, and feel. Look at the victim's chest and abdomen, stomach to see if it is rising and falling. Listen for sounds of breathing. And you can use your cheek to feel for the victim's breath. Check a full 5 seconds to be absolutely sure. If there is no breathing, pinch the victim's nose shut with the hand that is on the victim's forehead. Then open your mouth wide. Take a deep breath. Seal your mouth tightly over the victim's mouth and blow. Give 2 slow, full breaths and keep the head tilted. Then you can release the chin. With 2 fingers of the hand that you just used, find the middle of the throat. Then slide the fingers toward you to find the hollow of the victim's throat. Feel for a pulse. Remember to check for a full 5 seconds. If there is a pulse but still no breathing, provide at least 1 breath for every 5 seconds. Be sure to blow hard enough. Blow harder for an adult and less for a baby. Watch the victim's chest and stop blowing when his chest is full of air. Listen for the victim to breathe out and watch the chest to see if it falls. Remember, if there is no breathing, repeat the blowing cycle until the victim begins breathing or until help arrives. Whatever you do, stay with it. If you're by yourself, do a minute or 2 of breathing. Yell for help, and don't be afraid to yell your loudest. Then check for pulse and breathing. You see, your job in this kind of emergency is to give the victim what is lacking, that is, what he needs most. In other words, if there's no breathing, you give breaths, the way we've already described. If there is no breathing and no pulse, you'll have to provide circulation and breathing for the victim. This is called CPR. C, cardio, that is, heart, P, pulmonary, for lungs, and R, resuscitation, meaning to revive. Next, you want to find the landmark, that is, the spot to safely push on. Take your middle finger and run it up the ribs till you find the notch in the middle. With your index finger down, place the heel of the other hand next to the index finger. Take the first hand off the chest and place it on top of the second hand, holding the fingers up, elbows straight, and shoulders directly over the victim's body. Push or compress so that the chest moves down 1.5 to 2 inches. Again, 1.5 to 2 inches. Keep your hands in contact with the chest as you let the chest rise to its normal position. You're going to push or compress 15 times, then stop and give 2 full breaths. This cycle should take about 15 seconds. A good way to time yourself is to count aloud 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Repeat this procedure at least 4 times, then check again for pulse and breathing. Call once more for help if none has arrived. One of the most important things to remember is the emergency medical phone number for your community, so you can call for professional help as soon as possible. Each time you check the victim, a decision will have to be made. Number 1, if your victim has a pulse and is breathing, watch him, make him comfortable, and get medical help immediately. A second decision might be if he has a pulse but is not breathing, in which case continue rescue breathing, 1 breath every 5 seconds, and check every few minutes for pulse and breathing. And finally, if he has no pulse and no breathing, continue with CPR. Remember, 15 compressions, counting aloud, and 2 breaths about every 15 seconds. These procedures need to be reviewed often to be automatic in an emergency. That's important because we all get excited and confused in an emergency situation. So if you forget the numbers that we've discussed today, just remember your ABCs. A, establish an emergency airway. B, check for breathing. If there is none, you must provide breathing. And C, check pulse. If there is none, you must provide circulation by pressing on the victim's chest. But whatever you do, do not practice on a real person. Instead, pick a stuffed animal or large doll to be your CPR partner. This procedure is to be used only in an emergency and can cause injury to someone who doesn't need it. And of course, this demonstration tape is only an introduction to a life-saving technique. It's not meant to be a substitute for an accredited CPR course. To learn more about CPR, check with your local Red Cross or the Heart Association for the class schedule in your community.
Water and sun go together, but being in the sun too long can cause sunstroke, heat exhaustion, and sunburn. The idea in these cases is to cool the victim down and get them to rest. Staying in the cold too long could cause a serious condition called hypothermia.
Right. The body temperature drops and the victim would be doing a lot of shivering. He may be stumbling and slur his speech.
Oh. Jack does those things all the time.
Don't let him go to sleep. Now, we've got to get him out of the wind and cold and into a warm place. Then remove frozen or wet clothing.
Please.
Rewarm the victim by wrapping him in warm blankets or in a tub of warm, not hot water. If he's conscious, you could give him warm liquids. In the wilderness, you may have to warm the victim with your own body heat.
Please.
Accidents are bad enough, but they seem much worse when we're not at home with our first aid kit, our phone,
And our Teddy.
Most people think a kid's life is easy. You and I know it's not. But it can be a little easier and a lot safer if you're prepared.
One of the most important things for a young person's safety is immediate access to a responsible adult, one who'll be available during those hours when they will be alone.
There are lots of times when I need advice from an adult, when I'm not sure if I have a real problem or if my imagination is running away with me. Well, even when I stay calm, keep cool, and think, I may need to talk to someone.
If you've completed this series, you should be very proud. But don't stop here. Make a promise to yourself and the ones that love you to review this program often so that you will be ready if an emergency occurs.
Remember, sometimes we get excited and confused when we're in danger. Write down important rules and numbers. It'll help you clear your mind when you need it most.
Most of all, be honest with yourself. Do you ever catch a bad case of show-off-itis and ignore your common sense?
Look, Lindsay, no hat!
You just took the time to learn about safety.
And you're in great company. Just ask any great athlete or movie stuntman. They'll tell you that they always have safety on their minds. Now you will too. And so will I.